Tommy Robinson has been permanently banned from Facebook and Instagram, just as he's already been banned from Twitter and PayPal. Not surprisingly, his viewership and subscribers on YouTube are skyrocketing. As we see examples of various commentators and content creators being deplatformed, we shouldn't lose sight of the larger battle that's raging all around us. A battle between the establishment media and alternative media. Until very recently, it was incredibly difficult to challenge the establishment media, the BBC, CNN, MSNBC, The Times, The Wall Street Journal, The New York Times, and so on. You could speak at a rally or print leaflets to share your dissent, but since you simply didn't have the reach of the establishment media, your voice would be drowned out in a flood of politically correct propaganda. That all changed with the rise of the internet, and more specifically with blogs, websites, and platforms like YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Suddenly, you didn't need a $10 million studio or a publishing company to compete with the establishment media. You only needed to win the trust of your readers and listeners and viewers, and you could build a massive following. But something interesting happened. As content creators began successfully challenging the narrative of the establishment media, people's trust in the establishment media plummeted. Readers and viewers then turned to internet personalities whom they felt like they could trust, and that's where they got their daily news. People no longer trusted media empires to tell them the truth, but they did trust a particular blogger or video maker that they'd gotten to know over the internet. As an example, for daily news, I now pay more attention to Tim Pool of Timcast than I do to CNN or Fox News or the New York Times. Why? Well, I've never felt like Tim Pool is trying to manipulate me. I always feel like mainstream media outlets are trying to manipulate me. And some people don't like being manipulated, which is why we turn to people we trust for the daily news. Obviously, if you're part of the establishment media, content creators from the alternative media pose a massive threat. Your readership is dropping. Your viewership is dropping. You're losing advertising revenue. You're downsizing. You look to the future, and it does not look good. You've been exposed. You've become a laughing stock. You're a joke. You're out of a job. Your fortress has been stormed and torn down, brick by egomaniacal brick. It's hard for a bunch of disgruntled narcissists to admit their defeat at the hands of a bunch of bloggers and YouTubers. So what do they do to stop the bleeding from all their exposed arteries? Well, like a wildcat mad with wounds, they lash out. They attack, which does absolutely nothing to fix their real problem, but they've lost so much blood, they're not thinking clearly. The reason the establishment media have declared war on people like Tommy Robinson is not that he's evil or a racist or homophobic. He isn't. Tommy Robinson is a threat to their power. Countless people in Great Britain now trust Tommy Robinson more than they trust the BBC. Do you have any idea how much it enrages the arrogant, elitist media corporations that the poor, ignorant masses who should be groveling at their feet, begging for scraps of news, have instead turned against them? Can you imagine what it feels like to be sitting comfortably in your ivory tower, looking down with contempt at the common folk, only to see the common folk turn away from gazing up at you in adoration and instead decide to lift up one of their own, someone they trust? Totally unacceptable. So what do? You use the influence you still have to take back the influence from the man who took it from you. You use all of your remaining influence, all of your remaining resources, all of your remaining energy to attack a man that the people trust more than they trust you. If you can show that he's a racist and a bigot and a homophobe, well, maybe people will stop trusting him and come crawling back to you. How does this work? Well, The BBC has been producing a documentary. The working title is Tommy Takedown. The purpose of the documentary is to expose Tommy Robinson as the evil, deceptive hate monger that he's supposed to be. The only problem is Tommy Robinson, a little 5'6" son of Irish immigrants, outsmarted, outflanked, and outclassed the entire BBC. He secretly recorded interviews and showed that BBC journalists themselves are liars and racists and bigots and homophobes. I kid you not, he put together his own documentary called Panodrama, an expose on the fake news BBC. The link is in the description box. Now observe the chain of events. Tommy exposed the BBC as liars and hypocrites just a few days ago. Yesterday, Tommy was banned from Facebook and Instagram. We know one person who was actively involved in having Tommy deplatformed. His name is Mohammed Shafiq. Yesterday, after Tommy was banned, Shafiq tweeted, "Breaking news, fascist Tommy Robinson has been banned from Facebook and Instagram. Next, we need YouTube to ban Tommy Robinson, the hateful, racist, and Islamophobic videos of his on their platform." And here we have the meeting with Facebook. I can reveal I recently had a meeting with Facebook to discuss Tommy Robinson pages and their impact in brainwashing his supporters to become terrorists and use violence against Muslims. A very good result, and I am proud of my role. So, Mohammed Shafiq met with Facebook to try to get Tommy Robinson deplatformed. Why is this interesting? Well, we can read Shafiq's description. Muslim broadcaster on TV, radio, columnist, chief executive of the Ramadan Foundation, and paper reviewer Saturdays for BBC 5 Live. Mohammed Shafiq works for the BBC, the company that just tried to sneak up on Tommy in order to expose him, not realizing that Tommy was sneaking up behind them until he pulled their collective pants down and finished them off with an atomic wedgie. What do you do if you're the BBC and you've been exposed as liars and racists and elitists and homophobes? At this point, simply discrediting Tommy Robinson isn't enough. You have to silence him. So you send in Mohammed Shafiq, a poor Muslim who tried to get Majid Nawaz executed for violating Sharia blasphemy laws, to tell Facebook that Tommy is endangering Muslims with all his calls for violence that were completely fabricated. And Facebook, never a platform to stand up for freedom or independent thought, permanently banned Tommy. A clear victory for the establishment media, right? No. When Tommy's opponents get caught lying to people and threatening people and bribing people and telling people what to say in interviews and getting people drunk to extract false statements, all to bring down a little football hooligan from Luton, getting him deplatformed only proves him right. It only gets him more attention and makes his opponents look more cowardly and dishonest and underhanded. The British media are the least trusted media in all of Europe. And there's a reason for that. The British media are professional liars and manipulators and hypocrites. But when they're exposed, all they know how to do is lie and manipulate in order to silence their critics. But as they lie and manipulate to silence their critics, more people realize that they're liars and manipulators, so they end up exposing themselves even further. British journalists are apparently so corrupt that they can't grasp the fact that if they don't want to be known as professional liars and manipulators and hypocrites, the solution is to stop being liars, stop being manipulators, stop being hypocrites. Their job is to report the news. How complicated is that? Anyone with an internet connection can do that now, which is why the establishment media are in panic mode. The BBC heaping abuse on Tommy Robinson is like Blockbuster Video heaping abuse on Netflix. The establishment media, like Blockbuster Video, are obsolete. They just don't know it yet. But don't lose heart, BBC, because there's still a place for you in the British Museum.